Okay, presentations. Do you think your slides are going to impress the people watching the presentation? No, we all look at screens all the time, every day. What's going to impress them is your presentation skills and how you present yourself in English. In this short little video, I'm going to go through different parts of presentations, give you key phrases in business English you can use to sound professional, competent, and hold people's attention. A good presentation can make or break your career. So, hopefully, within this short little video, you're going to get a lot of tips, advice, and phrases. And I will also go over do's and don'ts for the next time you have a presentation in business English. Let's jump in and get started. Okay, so a presentation, the most important part of a presentation is the beginning and the end. I mean, we've all sat through presentations. If the beginning is not that great, you're already going to be tuning out, checking your phone, waiting for it to end. So a good presentation kicks it off. This is important, having a good opening, a good introduction. So we're going to look at some ways to grab attention, to set the context, and to build some credibility so people actually do sit up and listen to what you're saying. So some great phrases are, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. Just showing that you appreciate them. People like that. I mean, people take time out of their day, whether they are a captive audience or not, whether they have no choice to be there or not. Thanking them for being there is huge because it means you appreciate the fact that they're there looking at you, listening to you. It's big. So thank you for being here today. Or move on from that. The purpose of my presentation is, the purpose of my presentation is, the purpose of this talk is, telling them why they're there, what they're going to be doing. So at least they can be aware that this is something that they will connect with, or maybe it doesn't necessarily connect with their field or what they work in, but there could be elements in there that they're interested to learn about. Most people do want to expand their area of knowledge and expertise, so this is good. So you say the purpose of my presentation is to, and then you're going to tell them what your purpose is: to inform you about last year's sales figures, to introduce our new product range to you. Whatever it is, you tell them why you are there and why they're there and why everyone is listening to the presentation you're giving. Next one is telling them how you're going to start. So I'd like to begin by giving you an overview of this. So if you're giving a presentation, hi everyone, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Melissa, or I see a mix of old and new faces here for those of you who don't know me. So sometimes it's a mix of old and new faces. If it's all people you already know, nice to see all these friendly faces. Nice to see everyone again. Great to see all you guys back for this next presentation. Or if it's all new people, thank you so much for being here today. I'm looking forward to getting to know each and every one of you. So that's how you can start there. So, and you go in to talk about the purpose of your presentation, telling them how you want to begin. So I'm going to begin by giving you an overview of this project, an overview of our merger, an overview of our product line. So an overview just means a bird's eye view of everything that you have, a big summary of something, but you're telling them how you're going to begin. People like to have structure, and when there is structure in a presentation, people know when to listen. They know when they can kind of tune out. I mean, no one is going to listen nonstop to every second of a presentation. I mean, you have to be an incredible presenter. People are going to kind of tune in and out. So by giving them little signposts saying, I'd like to begin by giving you an overview, well, everyone's going to listen to an overview. This is really important. And then, of course, you want to tell them what they'll get from this presentation. So by the end of this session, by the end of this presentation, you will know about our product line. You'll have a good understanding of what we can offer your company. So let them know what they will get at the end of the presentation, what new knowledge they'll take home, what they would have learned. Some great tips here is smile, 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 smile. I know other cultures aren't as smiley as we are in English. If you're speaking in English, you need to be smiling. So much of your personality comes out through your voice in English. Well, probably any language, but very much so in English. So if you're giving a presentation and you say, thank you everyone for being here today, I'm very excited to show you our new product line. Oh, I don't want to watch that presentation. Like, I do not even want to be there, that presentation. I'll fall asleep. So hi everyone, thank you for joining me today. I'm excited to take you through our new product line. So as I'm talking, I'm smiling. And when you smile and you talk, it brings in that intonation, that natural melody we have when we speak English. Really important. Now, eye contact is very important. Now, a lot of us work online, so you don't have to. Right now, I'm staring at my camera. I'm staring at you guys. But if I was online giving a presentation, to maybe a group of 5 people or 10 people, it would be really hard for me to just look at the camera because I'm presenting. I have to read. I have to read my notes. I have to read everything. Right here, I have a couple notes, but most of it's kind of ad lib. I'm just speaking as I'm teaching this to you. But if you're giving a presentation online, it's totally fine to be able to look at your camera, and then you're going to look down to your notes and you're going to look at the slides. That's acceptable. Everyone knows that needs to be done. No one can memorize everything. And if it's a one-on-one presentation, you actually don't want to look at the camera. You want to look at the person in the video. So if it's one other person on the call, maybe 2 other people, look at their faces so people know you're actually looking at the video of them. I mean, it's so much more natural than staring at a dot in your on your laptop screen. So it's totally fine not to make eye contact because you're actually staring at their video. And of course, if it is in-person presentation, I mean, you do want to make eye contact. I mean, don't make it weird for anyone. There's a thing in presentations called chandeliering. A chandelier is a light that hangs low from the ceiling. So you kind of want to look over everyone's heads, and that's called chandeliering. So you're kind of looking at everyone, but you're not looking at anyone. And people feel you're looking at them, but you're not. So if you get nervous, that's a really good thing to do, chandeliering, and people will think you're making eye contact, even though you're not. Another thing is you want to keep this intro under 2 minutes. You don't want to go on for too long. I mean, you haven't even got to the details of the presentation yet. So keep your intro. If you want to bring in a little bit of a joke, you want to bring in a little anecdote, you want to bring in a little background, a little summary, fine. Don't make it too long. Under 2 minutes is perfect. It's nice. You don't want to have it that long. And again, if you are presenting and people don't know you, they don't need to know your life story. They don't need to know your life story. So you don't have to say, oh, hi, I'm Paul and I'm presenting this product to you. And you don't have to tell them about your whole CV of work experience and development. They're not here for that. They're not here for you. They're here for what you're presenting. We have to remember that. And that's very important. And don't apologize. Don't say, sorry to, come into, the middle of your day. Sorry to take up time of your day. Sorry, this won't take too long. No, don't apologize. They're there. You're there. Don't apologize for the time because you're going to give them relevant, important information. Next up is an agenda or a roadmap for a presentation. If there's an agenda, great. If there's no agenda, give them a roadmap. So where are you going in this presentation? What journey are they going on with you? What are you going to be talking about in every part? People like structure, and it can help people manage their expectations too. And they'll be a lot happier going along the presentation with you. So in the very beginning, after you introduce yourself, you want to give them a roadmap of what you'll be talking about. So today I'll cover 3 key areas. First, then, and finally this. So let them know you're going to cover 3 key areas about our product launch. I'll cover 3 key or two main points in the financial year review. So just let them know what you're going to be talking about. People appreciate this. Or you can even let them know simply, here's how this presentation is going to be structured. And they love that. I mean, presentations don't have to be a mystery. You're not there to entertain. You're there to deliver information effectively and professionally. So it's totally fine saying, here's how I've structured this presentation. Here is how this presentation is structured. So you're letting them know, I'll do this and this and this and this. People like that. Make it easy for them to sit back, listen, and take in the information you're giving them. Again, it doesn't have to, you're not acting, you're not performing, you're delivering information. The clearer you can be, the better. And again, let them know when questions are appropriate. So, if you have any questions, please note them and I'll take them all at the end. So let them know in the beginning when you'll allow questions or if you will allow questions. So you can say, we don't have a lot of time for this presentation today. If you have any questions, please note them and send them to me via email or send them to me after the presentation, and I will absolutely answer all your questions. Or please, if you have any questions, please note them down and I'll take them at the end of the presentation. So you're letting them know how things are structured, and if they need to jump in, if they need to ask some questions, you're telling them how, when, and where to do so. Some extra tips would be, if you are, obviously with a presentation, most presentations do have a slide that goes with it. You don't want text in a slide, like a slideshow. You just don't even want that on the visuals of your presentation. You want bullet points. You don't want text. You are saying the text, right? So you're saying the text. Here on the slideshow or on the presentation, you just want bullet points and summary. It should not be the same. It should be obviously the same thing. It has to be the same topic, same thing you're talking about, but not word for word. So a lot more words come out of your mouth than are on the screen. Keep it very, very simple. And don't overload an agenda with too many items. I mean, an agenda should be maybe 5 items. I mean, if it's a really important presentation, maybe 7 to 10. I mean, 5 is kind of nice, right? So maybe you need a couple more presentations, or you can kind of bunch some together, but you don't want to overload it with too many agenda items, because people will get lost, people will get confused, because with every point in the agenda, every single topic you're speaking of or part of the presentation, different agenda points. I mean, they could be very different. So it could be a little bit too chaotic. So try to keep it around 5, I'd say max 10. And don't assume your audience knows the flow of what you're going to tell them. Even and there's so many different ways to give presentations. Even if you've given lots of presentations before, they've sat through lots of presentations. Presentations are very common in your company. Don't assume that. Just make it easy for them. Here's the structure of my presentation today. Here's what we're going to cover first, then second, then third. I'll take questions at the end. There you go. It's very straight. I mean, you want to be a bit more polite than that. Thank you for coming today, and this is the structure of my presentation. We're going to cover these 3 points. See what the three key points are. If you have any questions, note them down. I'll get to them at the end. Thank you so much. Let's get started. So you really want to tell them what the structure is, what they can expect. Okay, so you've given your introduction. You've given them a roadmap, an agenda of what they're listening to, what the presentation is about. Now we need to move into what the presentation is, the main body, the content, the delivery, everything you're going to be telling people. So here you want to make sure, again, you follow a very clear structure. And we have this term in English called signposting. And signposting is like when you're driving your car and you see this has stop, this has go west, this has detour, this has U-turn. Having signs, so as you're driving, you know where to go. The exact same thing is very useful in presentations. It helps to keep people's attention. So this is kind of like telling them when you're transitioning. Okay, first we'll talk about this. Okay, now we'll move on to this. Another important aspect is this. Now, this brings me to this. This is a way to connect and add a transition between ideas. So, if you're talking about one thing, and maybe that one thing is not relevant for some people in the audience or some people listening to your presentation, but then you go, now let's move on to. Now, when you say let's move on to, okay, everyone's ears are going to go, okay, I got to listen now. So you're going to keep re-engaging people by using these little signposting, this little bit of transition. It's very important. So now we'll move on to this. Or another important aspect is, wow, people hear important. Again, they're going to go, they look up from their phones, they're going to re-engage. I mean, if it's a long presentation, and sometimes presentations are long, people can be there, but not like 100% be there. I mean, we've all sat through presentations where you're listening, but you're not like crazy taking notes the whole time. You're kind of come in and out of your focus and concentration. So by saying these little transitions, it helps people know when and where to kind of go, oh, this is important. Oh, I have to really focus and listen to this one. Or this brings us to, so you're talking about, I know, Q3 sales review. And this brings me to our forecast for Q4. So this brings me to, so you spoke about one thing, but this segues, this moves into, this transitions into this. This brings me to this. Or as you can see from this data, this has been a very difficult year from us. We really hope to, reach our KPIs the year forward. So you're saying, as you can see from this data, as you can see, so then people are going to make sure they're looking up and engaged, looking at the figures, looking at the data. This is going to bring us into this. So little things like, let's move on to another important item is, this brings us to, as you can see from this, dun, 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 and continue that train of thought. People are going to go, oh, this is important. I got to listen. And then you're clearly giving them a transition between ideas, between different parts of your presentation. This is key. Again, this is called signposting. First, next, finally. This is important. This is where you can give examples, give stories, or have visuals that will support your key points. I mean, any type of visual could be photos, it could be graphics, it could just be some bullet points. But this is really important, and this really makes the body of your presentation, which is your presentation. I mean, the whole presentation is in the body. This makes it really important, and this makes it key. Again, when it comes to presentations, I mean, slides are important. Keep them clean. A lot of white space, maybe, I mean, per bullet point, 5, 6 words per line. Don't overload it with text. Of course, you want to give them all the text possible. Then why are you speaking, right? Then why are you speaking? You're there to present. You're there to speak the task and get text and give them bullet points and things. One thing when it comes to presentations, if you've ever watched a TED Talk, if you've ever watched someone who presented so well, they don't speak quickly. They don't speak quickly. And this is something that a lot of advanced ESL students make this mistake. Because you're advanced, you can speak quick. You're fluent. Well, you don't come across as professional or as competent. So I could go through, for example, thank you everyone so much for coming here today. Today we're going to take a look at Q3 sales forecasts. I spoke really fast. It probably sounded okay. Now I'm going to slow it down. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. Today, we're going to take a look at Q3 sales forecasts. I mean, I said that slow. And when you say things slow, there's lots of dips, lots of pauses. This makes you come across a lot more professional in business English. The slower you talk in business English, well, especially presentations, the better. I'll say that again for you in the back of the room there. The slower you talk in presentations, the better. Now, when I say slow, you have to make sure you're speaking slowly with the correct intonation, with pauses. So again, I can speak slow. Hello, everyone. Today we're taking a look at Q3 sales figures. That was slow, but that was horrible because it was all one level and no pauses. So I'm going to say it again, but I'm going to have a little up and down and some pauses. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. Today, we're taking a look at Q3 sales forecasts. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. It's that melody, the pauses, the natural rhythm that goes into English is really key for presentations. I mean, I had a student years ago preparing a C-level manager or C-level professional. So he was a CEO or CFO, CEO or CFO. He was preparing a presentation for his head office of a big multinational Fortune 500 global company. And his English was beautiful. His grammar was beautiful. His slides were beautiful. Everything was beautiful. His presentation skills were, no, they weren't good because he was so under the understanding that presentation in English needs to be very formal and direct and calm. And he had no rhythm in there. He had no natural pauses. He didn't smile, so no personality came along with it. And we worked on it over the weeks until it was a dynamite, amazing presentation. And he really wowed a lot of people. So again, you have to make sure, if you're smiling, if you're enjoying yourself, if you're speaking slowly, usually you'll get those natural pauses in. That's really important. So you do want to emphasize key words and stress or intonation. So this is an incredibly important presentation for this department. This is an incredibly, I mean, incredibly, that was like boom, boom, right? So if you really do want to emphasize some words, this is how you do it. You say them slower and lower. This is an incredibly important presentation for this department. Thank you for being here today. So lots of pauses, important words, bring them down. When you're preparing a presentation, you're going to have your text of everything you're going to say. I wouldn't recommend, I mean, I'm not reading anything right now. I have some bullet points I'm pulling from, but I'm not reading any text at all. You have to be like an Oscar nominated actor or actress to be able to read something well from a teleprompter. I mean, these are like these are politicians, these are actors who can read from a prompter of all the text. Usually we work on bullet points and we just kind of add around it. So as you're doing this, make sure you emphasize those keywords. So when you're practicing at home, have it and then highlight keywords. So when you're practicing your presentation, you highlight important, you know, next year, anything that's important in your speech, highlight that word. And as you practice it, make sure you kind of stretch that word out, emphasize it, and go down a little bit. Again, with some don'ts we have here, we really don't read every word on the slide. The slide should not be the same vocabulary that's coming out of your mouth. Okay, I mean, of course, some words are going to be the same, obviously, because you talk about the same topic, but you should not be reading the slides at all. People can read slides. People, why are you showing them the slide if you're going to read it to them? They don't need to be read to. They need to be presented to. Two different things. And again, don't fill the slides with long paragraphs. Don't fill your speech with long paragraphs. Make sure it's very natural and present, as if you're speaking to just your colleague or just your boss or just your client. Imagine there's one person in that room. So the presentation is going to be very natural, very comfortable. That's very, very key. And again, like I said, don't speak in monotone. You need to have those natural ups and downs that we have in English, pauses and stresses. Okay, next is engagement and interaction. Engagement means people are engaged. They're focused on you. They're invested in what you're saying. They're interested in what you're saying. And there's interaction back and forth. I mean, sometimes you want this, sometimes you don't interaction, but you definitely do want engagement. So there's different ways you can keep people's attention and involve the audience as you're giving a presentation. So there's some great phrases here. If you do want them to interact, you can say, how many of you have experienced da, 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 da. Give them an example. So let's say you're out there, you're selling a software solution, and so you can say, how many of you have experienced, dropped calls and meetings? Well, our software solves that problem. So by kind of relating to them, how many of you have experienced, and then talk about the problem that your service or product solves. How many of you have experienced da, 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 and it's going to make them go, oh yeah, and so they're going to be invested emotionally into what you're going to be saying because you've identified a problem that they have and you have a solution to it. So automatically you've got them. They're a captive audience. They're going to be listening to you because they want to know how you can solve that problem because they have experienced it. So this is a way to get engagement from people and get them kind of focused on this. And again, you could open the floor. Open the floor means you're allowing anyone to speak. You could open the floor saying, what was your experience? What issues have you had? Let me know. So you could even just say, how many of you have experienced, give them a problem, and then you just go into what solutions your service or product solves, or what problems it solves, what solutions you have. Or you could say, and what was that? And you can actually involve them and have them give their input of what issues they've had or the experience that they've had. Another ones would be, by a show of hands, how many of you have worked with company B before? By a show of hands. This means you want people to do this. So let's say you're pitching a product that a very popular, your competitor is very, very popular in the market. They've cornered means controlled the market with something. So you can say, how by a show of hands, how many of you have worked with company A? Well, we're company B, we're the underdog, but we can offer the same service, the same great product you're used to, at a lower price. So you're saying, by a show of hands, how many of you know this? So then people go, oh yeah, I know. And people actually put their hands up. That's what it means. So it's actually involving them, you're getting them engaged. Or let's say, or if you want to maybe again have them think about an issue or a problem that has been in their business or in their lives that your product, your service could solve. You could say, let's take a moment to think about, you know, the difficulty of 2020 and the global pandemic and how some companies thrived in that time. So people can go, oh yeah, 2020, that was a horrible, horrible time. But yeah, some companies really did thrive in that time. So you're saying, let's take a moment, or please take a moment to think about and give them a situation that they're going to think about. And then you're going to segue, lead into what you provide and how it connects to that. So this is a very nice one. And again, you don't have to have questions at the end. You can say, any questions so far? Any questions? Feel free to jump in as you want. So you can absolutely have people pipe up. Pipe up means join the conversation as the presentation goes along. It depends on you. You control the presentation. You decide if you want them during the presentation or you want them at the end. Now, if you do find that your audience is getting a little disengaged, they're not completely engaged, this is good. Any questions so far? Or you could actually go to someone, and if it's a smaller room you're presenting to, maybe I don't know, 20 people or under, to say, oh, Peter, you work in the Boston branch. Did you experience this last year? So you can get some input. If you do find that the attention of the audience is kind of going away from you, you could pull people in that way, and that works very well. Some tips here would be, ask short, simple questions. Keep it very, very simple. And again, use names if appropriate. Peter, the Boston office, you had the experience with client B before. How'd that work out for you guys? So pull people in, or if you're doing a presentation after someone else, so maybe a lot of people are sharing the floor. Again, the floor means speaking. You can say, oh, as Maria mentioned earlier, we did have some difficulty last year, which we have solved those technical issues. So, and pulling in other people in the presentation, just by saying a name is again going to engage everyone going, oh, this is important. Okay, they're talking about Maria. This is important. This is pretty important. And again, you want to encourage people to nod. So when I speak, when I present, when I do my videos, I'm speaking to you, all the ESL learners. And when I talk about presentations, I'll say, presentations sometimes they're pretty boring. And so I'm going, they're pretty boring, right? Like I'm relating with you. I'm saying like, hey, I know presentations can be super boring. And so just by nodding, by moving your body a little bit, I probably use my hands too much. I think there's probably a course I could take on how to use my hands. I'm not here to teach you how to give presentations physically, okay? I'm here about the language and presenting yourself from the head up. I'm probably using my hands too much. That's not why you're here. You're not here to learn about presentations, hand gestures from me. You're here for English. So, fine. But you do want to use your head. You want to nod. You can't be a statue. You have to be able to move your head. This is so unnatural. If I was to talk like this and not move my head the entire time, you'd think, is she real? Is she like AI? Is she an avatar? Like, what is she? So you want to move your head. Don't go crazy, but you do need to move. Okay, next up is Q&A, questions and answers. This can be a double-edged sword. Double-edged sword is an idiom, and it means a situation with a good and a bad. So a double-edged sword. And questions and answers can be a double-edged sword because, you do want questions, you want engagement, but sometimes someone can ask you a question you're not prepared for or you cannot answer. So I have a couple of phrases that are going to help you along here. So first of all, as someone brings up a question, acknowledge the fact that you appreciate the question that they brought up. So that's a great question. Thank you for asking, or thank you so much for bringing that up. So it's really great. Instead of just starting to answer their question, acknowledge the fact that, thank you for asking that question. That's a great question. Thank you for bringing that up. Thank you for asking that. That's really nice to just acknowledge the fact that you appreciate that they've made an effort to ask those questions. Another one would be, to answer your point. So someone says, your service in the past has had some really bad reviews and another company's been on the market for a lot longer. I'm not so sure, if we want to move in your direction. To answer your point, yes, That was what happened in the past. However, now we're doing this. So if someone asks a question that's a little negative, then you can say, to answer your point, because someone's making a point. When someone makes a point, they're asking a question, but there's a statement hidden in there. So by saying, to answer your point, you're saying, I'm going to acknowledge and answer exactly what you're trying to say. And that's a very strong way of kind of taking maybe a negative little question and spinning it into a positive, which it works very well. Or if someone does ask you a question and you don't have the information in front of you, you don't have the details in front of you, you can say, oh, I don't have the details in front of me right now, but I'll get back to you on that. Or I'd be happy to look into that for you, but I'll get back to you later. So, or we'll circle back to that next meeting. Or fantastic question to bring up. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. Thank you for bringing that up. I can't answer it at the moment. I need to look into it. I'll get back to you on that. This is perfectly fine. It doesn't mean you don't know anything. It doesn't mean you don't have the details. It means you don't have the details right there, or it means that their question is so important to you, you want to make sure you answer it perfectly and with the response that their great question requires. So that's fine. So just say, if someone asks a question, you don't have the information for it. Great question. I don't have the details here with me, but I will get back to you on that. Or that's a great question. I need to look into that a bit more. So I will get back to you on that. And people appreciate that. People understand that. That's completely fine. Um, some good tips here is when someone does ask a question, thank them for asking the question. And a good thing here, again, if you find, this is at the end of the presentation. So at the end of the presentation, you may have lost some people's attention. So you could repeat or phrase the question as you're answering it. So what are you going to do about budget cuts and our department still meeting our production goals? Great question. Thank you for asking that. What we're going to do about dealing with budget cuts and still meeting our budget goals is this. So you're saying, thank you for asking that great question. You're rephrasing the question or repeating the question and then going into your answer. So anyone who's kind of maybe tuned out a little bit, tuned out as you lose focus, they're going to come back and listen there. Okay, we're at the end of the presentation. So again, the beginning of the presentation has to set the tone for it. And the end of the presentation is like a sandwich, right? You want to have two quality pieces of bread there. So you want to make sure your closing, your conclusion is very nice. You end with impact. It's not just a little fade out. You want to make sure there's an impact there. So again, you want to do signposting. And signposting is telling them where you're at in the presentation. Okay, so to wrap up, let's recap the key points. Now, wrap up means to finish something in a perfect way or finalize something in a perfect way. So to wrap up, let's recap some of the key points. Let's go over some of the key points. Or in a nutshell, in conclusion, I'd like to emphasize the importance of working in this field right now in our industry, or the importance of investing in this part of development of our company. So again, if you're pitching something, in conclusion, to sum up, I want to really emphasize, or I'd like to emphasize that, and you explain what you want to emphasize. So you can repeat the main point of your presentation. And again, of course, you have to thank people. Thank you so much for your time and attention, everyone. I appreciate you being with me here today. I'll leave you with this final thought. And again, sometimes in the beginning of a presentation, you can say, have you ever experienced this? Have you thought about this? So again, you can kind of mirror that at the end of your presentation, saying, thank you so much for your time and attention today. I'll leave you with this final thought. If you had a software solution like ours, how would your day-to-day business change? Right? So you're leaving them with like, ooh, something to really think about. So this is really strong. I'll leave you with this final thought. Our department has, exceeded targets 4 quarters in a row. We want to expand. This is my presentation. This is my pitch to you. So by expanding, just think of what we could achieve. So this is kind of your final little sales push or your presentation push at the very end. So I'll leave you with this final thought. That's great. And again, if you do want to summarize some 2 or 3 main takeaways from your entire presentation. So a takeaway is like something that people will take with them. So the main two, three, four, I mean, no, I wouldn't do more than four, maybe like three max. Um, Takeaways from the presentation, what you want them to remember from this presentation. So whatever your presentation is about, I mean, presentations can be about anything, but what do you want? What are 3 points you want them to remember and walk away with? And that's what you say. And again, smile, pause, invite final questions if you haven't done that earlier. And don't just say, okay, that's it. See you guys later. No, just say, thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate it. We're all done. Any questions? Feel free. The floor is open. Thank you so much for your time and attention. So don't just say, that's it, we're done. No, I mean, it's very nice to say that, but within a thank you and opening the floor for questions. So again, prepare, practice out loud, underline, highlight key words. And when you do say those words in your presentation, you want to really emphasize them, stretch them out, bring them down a little bit. Work on signposting, let people know, okay, now we'll move on to, and this brings me to, have that signposting so people know how to connect ideas together and to kind of listen if they've kind of tuned out a little bit. Also, make eye contact if you're speaking with people. Look at the camera. If it's a lot of people, if it's a small group, look at their video. That's completely fine. Keep your slides and your visuals simple. Let you be the main part of the presentation. Don't memorize anything word for word. No one is good at that. Like, again, unless you're like up for an Oscar, or this is what you do for a living, then you're probably not watching my videos. If you're giving good presentations, you probably don't even need to watch this. So 99% of us, we can't read word for word and make it sound natural. So don't read word for word. Have bullet points and have your notes of underlines, and then use your own language with that. That's the best way to do it. Don't read from the slides. Whatever it says on the slides, don't read the same words. They can read. They're looking at your slides. You don't need to say those things. And don't overload your audience with too many details. Keep it simple. Don't speak too fast. Go nice and slow. Smile and enjoy yourself, and your audience will enjoy themselves too. Thank you so much for joining me for this. A small little video on presentations. If you did enjoy it, please, I encourage you to subscribe to my channel and like the video, and let me know in the comments of other parts of presentations that maybe I didn't touch on that you want some help with, and I read all the comments and reply to them as well. Thank you so much for joining me.